Today we are discussing about definition for arrays. It is a special type of variables that enable to store as many as values that that is needed. Okay, special type of variable that enable it to store as many as values. Okay, so in a way we can say that whenever we are in need of handling with a number of variables, we can use arrays. Okay, so it's like rather than using 100 different variables in a program, we can manage that with using an array. And arrays are indexed, and each entry is made up of a key and a value. Arrays are indexed, and each entry is made up of key and a value. The key is the index position beginning with 0. The value is whatever value that you associate with each position, be it string, integer, float, and whatever values. Okay, so it's like say I'm using an array that is used to store 5 different values. Okay, I'm not mentioning array in PHP, array concept in general. Okay, be it C, C++, Java, PHP, whatever programming language. I want to use an array with 5 different storage locations. Okay, having said that, what happens with the memory, that is what I am going to explain. Okay, how array is managed inside memory. So if you want to use an array with the 5 different memory locations, so it is like the 5 different memory locations, that is continuous locations, are falling side by side. We'll avoid this. Okay, so 5 different memory locations, or we can say 5 different continuous memory locations, that may be assigned with a common name A. If we assume that the name of the array is A, and these memory locations are indexed, okay, starting with zeros. So this location, the very first location which is part of the array, can be uniquely addressed as A of 0. Second location is A of 1. Okay, and the fifth location is A of 5. So if you are using an array with 5 different memory locations, uh, the indices, the values, the key values given for different storage locations, that starts with 0. So it is a 5-sized array. Index value starts from 0 and ends with 4. Okay, this is how array is managed in memory. And you assume that you are using a variable, an integer variable in B. This is a common usage in C, right? So what happens with a memory, or how the variable B is managed in memory is some location in memory that may be labeled as B. Okay, so for an assignment B is equal to 5, forget about the programming language that we are using with. I'm assigning a value 5 to B. So the memory locations which is temporarily labeled as B, temporarily labeled as B. I'm using the term temporarily because once the lifetime of this program is done, this memory can be used for some other variable. Okay, so temporarily this space which is labeled as B, that may get assigned with 5. Okay, so with arrays it is some continuous memory locations, and with variables it could be some individual locations. Okay, that is how arrays and variables are managed in memory. Now coming back to arrays in PHP, how arrays are managed in PHP. Managed means how it is declared, how it is used, how values are assigned. There are two different ways. How to create in arrays in PHP? There are two different ways. One is using the array function. Okay. Second is using the array operator. So this is the first method and this is the second method, using array function and using array operator. We will see how. Okay. Now this is an example for which an array is created using the array function. The array function. Okay. So you can see that this is a variable. AR is a variable which is assigned with, or we can say that AR is made as an array purely because of the presence of this array function. Okay. Now what this may do is, this may ask some memory location, some continuous 5 memory locations to be labeled as AR. Some continuous 5 memory locations that will be labeled as 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. That will be labeled as AR. Okay. And here the creation of array is done along with assignment of values. Okay. This statement at the very same time creates AR as an array and also assigns 5 different values. Say I'm saying that AR is going to be an array with 5 different memory locations. It is because here there are 5 values given along with the array function. Okay, so it is somewhat different from we create arrays in C or C++. You take the case of arrays in C++. What this means, we intend to create an array as array A with 5 memory locations. Okay, we don't want to provide the values at the very same place where we declare the arrays, but PHP it is different. Okay, these values, this number of values actually decides what should be the size of the array AR. So here, as there are 5 different values, AR is going to be a 5-sized array, and each of these location may get assigned with values 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so AR is going to be an array, to be specific, an integer array with 5 different values. Okay, and we can do the same thing using the array operator, and it is done like this. Okay, AR of 0 equal to 1, AR of 1 is equal to 2. We are using the same set of values. Okay, so this is also another way of creating an array with 5 different values, but this is done using the array operator. This is done using the array operator. Okay, Now, in both these cases, AR is going to be a 5-sized. Total number of elements are 5. So the size of the array is 5. Now, if you want to add another element into this array, which is either created using the array function or created using the array operator, this is the way. If you want to add a new element, use the array operator. Okay. So this is an example. We have already created an array AR with 5 elements, and the index of the fifth element is 4. It is because the array index starts from 0. So it is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Fifth element has an index value 4. And if you want to add another location, its index is going to be 5 only. And this can be done using the array operator. The fifth location of AR, the array AR, is assigned with a value 10, means we are creating, or we can say we are inserting a new element into an existing array AR, which is already filled with 5 different values. Okay. Now this array AR is no more a 5-sized array. Instead, it is going to be a 6-sized array. The number of elements in this array from now on is 6, because we have added a new element into the existing array AR, which is filled with 5 elements. Okay. So this is the way by which we can create an array. That can be done either using an array function or using an array operator. And if you want to add a new element into an existing array, that can be done purely with the array operator only. It does not if you actually created the array using the array function or array operator, if you want to add a new element, that can be done only using an array operator. Okay. Now, this is a new concept in PHP. We know that arrays can contain any kind of values. It could be integers, it could be strings, it could be float, double values. Accordingly, we are calling, we may call those arrays as an integer array, a float array, a string array, etc., etc. Right? So the values inside each array that actually determines the kind of array that is. Okay. Now this is a new concept in PHP, something known as associative array. I actually missed G here. It is associative array. Okay, this is wrong. Now this array concept is nothing but indexes are named characters. Rather than using integer indices, usually we know that the array indices starts from 0 and that may go up to an integer value that actually decides the size of the array. Now, coming to the concept of associative array, here the index is not an integer value. Instead, it's a named character. You can see this example. This is an associative array where you can see the indices are certain strings, certain names. I have used a string name as the index of this first memory location. Occupation is the index of the second memory location. Age is the index of the third memory location. So associative arrays are nothing but they are special kinds of arrays in PHP where the index values are certain named characters. They are certain strings. Okay? And this is the way to create an associative array. Now the name of this associative array is characters. Okay? This is going to be a array variable, and we are creating this using the array function. So much is similar with the previous cases, but inside of this array function, uh, we are using, this is going to act as the index. This index gives this value. Okay? So the first index may take a string value name that you can see here, and that may receive a value Bob. Okay? You comma separate it. Then the name of the second index, it is occupation. Then this is special symbol, something you can read as gives or something like that. Occupation gives business. Okay? So business is going to be the value inside the index location that is named as occupation. Okay? And the third location is named as age, that gives 30. 30 may be the value inside the memory location which is named as age. Okay? So associative arrays are special arrays where index values are named characters. Index values are strings. Okay? And this is the way to create associative arrays. All right. I have made certain mistakes here. I never mind it. So if you have a printout statement like this, echo characters, and using the previous array, echo characters name, this will print out Bob. Echo characters, this is the index name, echo characters name, the output is going to be Bob only. Okay? Similarly, echo characters age, this one, that will print the value value 30. Okay? And similar with an integer array or a float array, with the associative arrays, if you want to add a new element, you can use the array operator again. Characters is an existing array, existing associative array, and into which you are adding a new value reading. Okay? New value reading, and the index of that value, index of that location, that will be named as hobby. Okay? I haven't shown it here, but it will be like hobby is what? Reading. So this array may get extended with a new location which may be labeled as hobby, and that may receive a value reading. Okay? That is with the associative arrays. We may move to multi-dimensional arrays now. multi-dimensional arrays are you already know how can you create a multi-dimensional arrays. Okay, so that could be a number of rows and number of columns. Okay, matrix is an example. If you want to create or if you have a matrix like 3 by 2, 3 by 2 means it is having 3 rows. There could be 3 rows and there could be 2 columns. Okay, and in PHP you forget about matrix and their example. uh, the concept is very simple. I don't want to make it complex or something like that. You take this as an example where which explains how to create a multi-dimensional arrays. Okay, a very simple concept. I don't want to make it complex. Okay, so we are using the same variable name AR. Okay, and the array function is used here. Now the important thing, inside this bracket, instead of using values, we are using another array function. Okay, for this array function we provide some values. Okay, and a comma separates this from another array function which is also provided with a number of values. Okay, so here there are 4 values, here again there are 4 values. So there are 2 array functions that may create 2 separate arrays. Okay, and this set of values that may decide how many rows inside this multi-dimensional, or we can say 2-dimensional array. There are 2 dimension, 2 along the row wise, and 4 along the column. So this may create 2 separate arrays. So there could be 2 rows. How many array functions are there? That actually decides how many rows will be present inside this multi-dimensional array. As there are 2 different array functions, there can be 2 different rows. We are not counting this array function. I actually told you the number of array functions decides the number of rows. Okay? We are not counting the external most array function, but whatever be the number of array functions inside this bracket, that actually decides how many rows are going to be there. Okay, and for each array function how many values are there, that actually decides the number of columns. Okay, so for the first array the values are going to be 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4, and for the second row it is 7 8 9 10. So this is going to be a 2 by 4 matrix, or we can say a multi-dimensional array with 2 rows and 4 columns. 2 rows and 4 columns. How many array functions are inside the bracket? Inside the bracket, that actually decides the number of rows, and for each array function inside the bracket, how many values are provided, that decides the number of columns. So this is going to be an array with 2 rows and 4 columns. AR 2 rows, 4 columns. AR is now going to be a multi-dimensional array with 2 rows and 4 columns. Okay. And similarly, we can create multi-dimensional associative arrays. The concept we have just discussed. What is an associative array? Arrays with named index locations. That is what associative arrays. Now to create multi-dimensional associative arrays, what we do is, again we may use the array function. Okay, now for this array function which is inside this bracket, you can see instead of giving direct values, we are using the index value pair. Okay, we are using index value pair. So this is one index value pair. Name is going to be the index, Bob is going to be the value inside. This is another index value pair with occupation is the index and the business is the value. Okay, now there are only two index value pair for this array function, so we can say there could be only two columns. And we have another array function here for which also we have two index value pair. So these two array functions actually decides the number of rows. There are only two of them, so we have two rows, and for each array function there are two index value pair, so we have only two columns as well. Okay, so this is going to be the shape of this array with two rows and two columns. So CH is going to be an array with two rows and two columns. CH is the name of the array. CH is the name of the array. Okay. Now why it is 0, 1 indices here, but named indices are here? It is because this is whatever is inside this bracket, that is the value inside each array along the row wise. Okay, so for this array function, the supposed to be values are certain index value combination. Okay, we are using certain named indices here. That is why the columns are actually named. The first column is named as name, second column is named as occupation. First column is named as name and second column is named as occupation. And why this is this remains 0 and 1? It is because we are using the usual array function here. These two array functions decide how many rows are going to be there. Okay, so this difference will be clear once we see the next example. Okay, here again I have a 2 by 2 matrix, but what you can see here is all the column indices and the row indices, they are all named, they are all characters. Now what is the difference here? This difference happens here because, say, inside this function array, this is the external most array function. Okay, you see the difference here. With the previous one, inside of this array we immediately used another array function. Okay, but coming to this example, inside of this array function contains a string value. Okay, so this is like array of ABC gives array, that has to be treated as the first row created using this array function, that can be labeled as ABC. Okay, that can be labeled as ABC, and this part remains the same. Inside of the first row, the first column can be named as name and second index can be named as second column can be named as occupation. Okay. This is followed by another array function which is also written as xyz gives array. So the second array can be, sorry, second row can be named as xyz. So this string value gives an array function that actually converts, or we can say that actually changes the scenario from here to here. Instead of the integer values for the rows in the first example, it is changed to a string with the second example, purely because we are using certain strings inside the array function to start with, rather than straight away using this array function. So this is the name of, or we can say the first row is named as ABC, second row is named as XYZ. Okay, the column value that should remain the same for both the rows, that we know. Okay, so the same name occupation values are inside the second array function also, and the values respectively are inside the first row, first column it is Bob, first row second column it is business, second row first column it is Sam, second row second column is lawyer. Okay, so this is also a multi-dimensional associative array with both rows and columns are labeled as strings. Okay, with the first example, this is also a multi-dimensional associative array. Here only the column names are labeled as strings. So that is with the arrays in PHP.